How's it going, my musical warriors? We are back here in TeacherTam. We're doing assignment number 25 today, and I'm about to turn things over to Mr. Barry because, as usual, he does our theory stuff. And today we're going to learn about basic music notation. So, Mr. Barry, take it away.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and we're going to share screens.
All right, you guys should be able to see it now. Go to assignment number 25. We go to the Jamma board.
Okay, so guys, today we're learning about basic rhythms. We're looking at the note types and time signature. Okay, so the duration of the musical sounds is indicated by different types of notes. These indicate how long or short to hold a note. So we're going to look at three notes. The three notes that we're going to be looking at are quarter notes, half notes, and whole notes. Can someone turn their microphone on and tell me how many beats a quarter note is worth?
One.
Thank you. One beat. Thank you. So a quarter note, it looks like a shaded in dot with a stem going up the side of it.
Note the shaded in part, guys. Only a quarter note will have the shaded in portion.
Okay, so the second note is a half note. Who can turn their microphone on and tell us the value?
2.
2 beats. Thank you. 2 beats.
That is correct.
And the half note kind of looks like a quarter note that's not bubbled in. So it has the stem going up the side, and it looks like a dot, but it's not shaded in. And then the third note that we're going to be looking at is a whole note. Someone tell me how many beats a whole note is worth?
4.
4 beats. Thank you. So a whole note just looks like a bubble that's not shaded in. And actually, we should be the most familiar with this note because we've seen this particular note in assignments 12, 14, 16, and 18. Okay, so one whole note is equivalent to 4 quarter notes. And one half note is equivalent to 2 quarter notes. And that's just simply saying that the value of a whole note for the first one equals 4. And it takes 4 quarter notes to equal the value of a whole note. For the half note, it's going to take 2 quarter notes to equal the value of a half note, which is 2. And then for a whole note, it will take 2 half notes. A half note is equivalent to 2 beats. 2 plus 2 is 4 to equal the value of a whole note.
Yeah, and then we have this really cool pyramid thing right here that shows you that a whole note divided in half becomes 2 half notes. And if you divide each of those in half, it becomes 4 quarter notes. Just like 4 quarters make up a dollar, 4 quarter notes make up a whole note.
Okay, so now we're going to read about time signatures. So it says time signatures are placed at the beginning or start of a piece of music. They are made up of 2 numbers. So you'll see 4 on top of 4. So the top number is showing us the number of beats that we have in what's known as a measure. Okay, the second number, the bottom number, shows us what kind of note is going to get 1 beat. Okay, so we continue to read. It says in 4/4 time, there are 4 beats in each measure. So that top number being 4 is an indication that there will be 4 beats per measure. And I'll explain what a measure is in just a second. And the bottom number 4 is a representation of a quarter note getting 1 beat in each measure. Okay, so now let's look at number 1. We're not going to follow the instructions that are here, but let's look at number 1 and let's just kind of talk about measures and make sure that we have a full understanding of what a measure is. So at the start of every musical line, you'll have an imaginary, what's known as a bar line. Okay, so from that line to the next line, everything inside of those 2 lines is known as a measure. So a measure is everything inside of 2 bar lines. So that would be measure 1. So the next measure, who can tell me what type of note would be in the next measure? Well, actually answer this one.
Those.
So the first, I didn't say this, but the first measure, we actually had 4 quarter notes. The second measure is the one that Mr. Matchmeyer just circled. What type of notes are in the second measure?
Turn on your mic and answer.
Half notes.
Very good. Half notes are
Notes
correct.
most definitely are in the second measure. What type of note is in the third measure?
Whole note.
A whole note. Thank you.
Very good.
So now I think we're understanding the concept of measure. So someone answer this question for me. For exercise 1, or for number 1, how many total measures do we have?
2.
Okay, we got 1.
So remember, everything from one line to the next is a measure. So 1, 2, 3, 4. How many measures, guys? 5. So there would be 6 measures for number 1. Okay, so just remember, everything inside of 2 bar lines constitutes a measure. Okay, so now let's talk about writing the counts. Do we see someone answer this question? Let's look at number 1 again. Mr. Matchmeyer, circle number 1 for us.
The first measure?
So Mr. Matchmeyer circling number 1. So how many beats do we have per measure again? If our time signature is 4/4 time, how many beats per measure?
4.
Very good.
4. So it's very important that you understand that we have 4 beats per measure. So you have to represent every count inside of the measure. That's why for number 1, we see 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have a note on beat number 1 in the measure. So that note that's on beat number 1 is a quarter note. It equals 1 beat, and it's on beat 1. The note that we have on beat 2 is also a quarter note. It equals 1 beat. So therefore it gets beat 2 in the measure. We have a quarter note on beat 3. It equals 1 beat. So therefore it gets the third beat in the measure. And we have a quarter note on beat 4. It equals 1 beat. So therefore it gets beat 4 in the measure. Okay. So the second measure, what type of notes are those again?
Half notes.
Half notes. So whenever we have a note that's larger than 1 beat, this is very important. So we have 2 notes here that are larger than 1 beat. We have a half note and a whole note. Whenever you guys come across a half note or a whole note, you have to add dashes. The dashes are going to represent the note carrying over however many beats the note is worth. So a half note is worth 2 beats. So we're going to put a dash to represent it carrying from the first to the second beat. Okay, we're not going to put a dash between 2 and 3 because that would indicate that that beat is larger than 2 beats. It would be worth 3 beats. So we're not going to do that. It's worth 2 beats. So we put a dash between beats 1 and 2. And then for the second half note, between beats 3 and 4. Who can tell me for the third measure, we know that it's a whole note. Where are we going to put the dashes for a whole note? A whole note equals 4 beats. So where are we going to put the dashes for a whole note? Who can tell us?
In between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, and 3 and 4.
Excellent.
Good job. Great job. That's exactly what you want to do. You have to put a dash between beats 1 and 2, 2 and 3, and 3 and 4. That is basically saying that it's carrying from the first to the second, then the second to the third, and then the third to the fourth beat. You do not want to put 1-4.
Nope.
The reason you don't want to put 1-4 is because you have to make sure that you are representing every beat inside of the measure, the first, the second, the third, and the fourth. If you look at literally every measure for number 1, you'll see a first beat, a second beat, a third beat, and a fourth beat for every measure for number 1. Okay. So That's number one. There's one. Let's look at measure 5. There's one thing that we're missing. So measure 5. What do we need to add to measure 5 to make it correct? And where? And it would be great to get choir students to answer because I'm getting all of the answers from the band students. So one more time, the question is what do we need to add to the 5th measure to make it correct?
Anybody from the choir?
Or band?
Quarter note.
Okay, we have 2 of those. What do we need to add to make the counts correct?
Half note
Okay, what do we add at the half note?
on the 4.
Okay, we put the dash where?
In between the 3 and the 4.
In between the 3 and the 4.
4, because it's a half note and it's worth 2 beats and it begins on beat 3 inside of that measure. Okay, guys? All right, so number 2. So answer this question. So number 1 has 6 measures. Who can tell me how many measures there are in number 2?
4.
Only the first line has 4. There are 2 lines.
Number 2 actually has 2 lines. So count them again. How many measures do we have?
8.
8 is correct, most definitely. Okay.
We have 8 measures.
It's 8 total measures. So that symbol that Mr. Matchmeyer just circled there, that is an indication of the end of the song, the end of the exercise, the end of the piece of music. Okay, it's like the period at the end of the sentence. That's how you know where the end is. Okay, so you count the measures all the way to the end. So let's read number 2. So the first thing that it tells us to do in number 2 is write a 4/4 time signature after the clef sign. So that's the first thing that you do. Then it says write in the beats below the notes indicated. Now we're not going to do the third thing that it tells us to do. Matter of fact, I'm just going to scribble that out. So we're not going to do that. So with this one, we're going to draw that time signature, which we just did. Now we're going to write in the counts. Who can tell me what am I going to write down for the first measure? Let's do it together. What are we writing?
1,
1,
2, 3, 4.
2, 3, 4 is correct. Hey, can someone from choir do the second measure? Turn your microphone on and tell us what to write for the second measure, choir.
I think choir's asleep. Hello?
Okay, guys, are you guys paying attention? Because I don't think you are. And if I think that you're not paying attention, I'm just going to give my attention where I know the students are paying attention to me.
Hey, Lyric, I know darn good and well you know how to count these. Kyla, I know you know how to count these. I hope you're participating, not just doing the assignment to get it done.
Okay, so I'm gonna keep moving on. So the second measure, band, you can answer this if you want to. Choir, you can still answer it. What would we write down?
1, 2, 3-4.
Correct.
Very good. Who was that? Was that Beauty? Or was
yes, that was Beauty. Thank you, Beauty.
Excellent.
Okay, so that's what you guys would do for number 2. And remember, there are 8 total measures for number 2.
Yeah.
2 lines.
Just
so now
because number 3 doesn't have lines underneath it doesn't mean that you don't count, because you do. And
you can still do it. Actually, matter of fact, let's do measure 5 real quick.
Why don't we do measure 7?
Okay, we'll do measure 7.
Because it is going to be one that is going to be a little difficult.
So let's start off. What are we going to write down first, guys?
1.
Okay, and then that second note is a half note. What do you think we're going to write down for that half note?
2-3.
There you go.
2-3 is correct. And then we're going to end with what count?
4.
4 is correct.
Yeah, these guys are going to do really good on that one. All right.
Okay, now number 3. So there are 3 things that we're going to be doing for number 3. So the first thing it says is write that time signature after the clef.
So you want to make sure to do that.
The second thing, it says write in the beats below the notes indicated. So we want to go ahead and do that second. So let's do that real quick. So let's look at the first, or the start of this the staff here. So what are we going to write out, guys?
1, 2, 3-4.
Excellent.
Correct. Now, the third thing that it tells us to do in the instructions, it says, then draw the missing bar lines. Now, after what count will we draw that bar line? After what number will we draw that bar line? Number what?
4.
Number 4. So whenever we get to the fourth count, that is the indication that that is the end of the measure. And at the end of the measure, you will have a bar line. Okay, just like Mr. Matchmeyer just drew. Let's do one more measure. So tell us, guys, the next measure, what will we write out?
1, 2, 3, 4.
There you
1,
go.
2, 3,
Like
4.
that.
And what do we draw after 4?
It's just
The
that.
missing bar line.
A bar line is correct, guys. Okay, so have at it. Let us know once you have completed the assignment. Mr. Matchmeyer, do you have anything that you would like to add, sir?
Well, no, you nailed it. You nailed it all. I do have to put my funny tam back on so we can say goodbye to everybody that is going to be joining us elsewhere. So take it away.
All right, guys. So peace out.
I love you all. See you tomorrow.
See you next time, guys. Take care.